We're coming to the end of the book of Joshua. We're in chapter 23 today. These two chapters, 23 and 24, are dedicated to the final speeches that Joshua gives to the people of Israel before the Lord takes him home to be with him. The differences seem to be in chapter 23, he's speaking primarily to the leadership. We see in verse 2 that he is speaking, he called all Israel, but then he called out the elders and the heads and the judges and the officers. He says, I'm old and advanced in years, and you have seen all that the Lord has done. So he says, I'm coming to the end of my run, and he brought the leadership in to instruct them in what they should do going forward. He knows his days are numbered, so he wants to give these final instructions to them at this time. And as he does so, we find that there's at least four themes in this speech that we'll highlight. Number one, he reminds them of God's faithfulness. In verse 3, you've seen all that the Lord your God has done to all these nations before you. For the Lord your God, it is he who has been fighting for you. And he mentions the same thing in verse 9 and in verse 14. The Lord has been faithful. The Lord promised to do certain things, and God has fulfilled that. Everything God has promised to do, God has done. And so he reminds them of that. As you go into the land, as I leave you, you're already in the land now, but I'm going to be gone. I'm not going to be there to guide you any longer, but the Lord will. Of course, the Lord has been faithful to you all along. The second theme is the Lord promises to regards to being faithful in the future. In verse 4, he says, See, I have apportioned to you these nations which remain as an inheritance for your tribes, with all the nations which I have cut off from the Jordan even to the great sea towards the setting of the sun. The Lord your God, he will thrust them out from before you, and will drive them out from before you, and you will possess their land, just as the Lord your God promised you. So what God had promised in the past and had done, had fulfilled, now he's made promises for the future. And he'll be with them as they move forward in the future, and he will fight for them. He will thrust these people out of the land so that they can have all the territory for the nation of Israel. But the third theme leads to a condition. There is a condition for God to do this for them, and that is a condition of obedience and clinging to him. In verse 6, he says, Be very firm then to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, so that you may not turn aside from it to the right or to the left, so that you will not associate with these nations. These which remain among you are mentioned the name of their gods, or to make anyone swear by them, or serve them, or bow down to them, but you are to cling to the Lord your God, as you have done to this day. And so there's two conditions, they're kind of overlapping. If you want God to drive out the rest of these nations, if you want God to be faithful to you in that regard and do what he promised, you must obey him, obey the law of Moses, and you must cling to the Lord your God. And if they don't do that, then they're going to suffer the fourth theme, the consequences of not obeying God. And we find those in verse 7, for example. He says in verse 7, so that you will not associate with these nations, these which remain among you, or mention the name of their gods, or or bow down to them, but you'll cling to them. And if you do not, you're going to ultimately turn aside and follow them and follow their gods. So he warns them about this at this time. Verse 12, For if you ever go back and cling to the rest of these nations, these which remain among you, and intermarry with them, so that you associate with them and they with you, know for certain that the Lord your God will not continue to drive these nations out before you, but they will be a snare and a trap to you, and a whip on your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from off the good land which the Lord your God has given you. And unfortunately, that is exactly what is going to happen. They are not going to remain faithful to the Lord. They do remain faithful as long as Joshua is alive, and later on we'll see the elders that were with him. But eventually, as that memory of these leaders and the things God had done for them faded, and apparently they did not pass it on to the next generations as they were told to do, as a result of that, they stopped doing what God told them to do. They stopped obeying, they stopped clinging, and the price they paid was that they intermarried with these people, associated with them, became like them, and ultimately lost everything in the process. He says in verse 16, If you do these things, you will perish quickly from this good land which he has given you. What a reminder to you and I of the need for obedience to the Lord, not just partial obedience or temporary obedience, but long-term, perpetual obedience, and passing that on to our children, our children's children, each generation, needing to know what God does and what God is doing. Well, there's one more chapter in Joshua we'll get to next week. His final speech is a good one. We'll look forward to reading it and studying it next week.